In the last video that I put out for you guys to check out on Ravens passing concepts, we basically explored what I think is the Ravens' most effective pass scheme, the over route, and some of the complementary things they run off of it. Of course, that's a concept that works best when the run game is a legit weapon. And 2021 ended up not offering that for the Ravens really as the season progressed. While I hoped that I pointed out how the Ravens run it, and they run it quite well, particularly with Lamar Jackson back there. I did not really look at other teams in that video, so that's what the point of this video tonight will be. What I will show is examples of other teams running the over route, but in some ways adding elements the Ravens do not often add. I think even though the Ravens run it very well, I think it is somewhat basic in certain ways. Essentially, I'll take a little bit more of a critical eye on the over concept, which, if I was to put it in boxing terms for the Ravens, is like their left hook. It's not the one, it's not the two. It's the one that really chews people up. And what I mean by that is, and I mentioned this at the end of the over route video, our data from 2021 indicates the Ravens averaged 11.4 yards per play on over concepts. Now again, I only have 582 some plays labeled and organized, and the Ravens ran like 1,100 offensively, so I clearly have some missing plays, a lot of them. And when I say we, by the way, other people on my Patreon are helping label and organize the plays and or create the data output for me to use, so it's wonderful. Anyway, that data, 11.4 yards per play on over concepts, was created from 30 plays. It could be a play action, it could be a shotgun play with no play action or no mesh, whatever. But anything labeled as over came out to be 30 plays overall, 11.4 yards per play. I think that's significant. RPOs were 6.7 yards per play on 18 plays, and flood concepts, which will be the next video I do, was only 3.2 yards per play. And I'd like to get a harder look at that data because I wonder if maybe I've mislabeled some things. Anyway, my point is the Ravens use the over concept well. I think I showed that to you guys in the last video. But they could be even more effective if they be less predictable. And that's been pointed out by a lot of us. And as well as, being more creative. Let's check out some of the ways that the Raiders, Cowboys, Vikings, Saints, and Packers are a little bit more creative in some ways. And then we'll talk about ways to stop the over concept, ways that, it becomes an unsuccessful play. All right, this first play is going to be a play action with an over route from the slot on the left. So it's going to be this guy. It's going to be this guy right here. The run action is going to come to the same side, and Dak Prescott's going to boot off of it. Ravens typically run their over route from the slot, not necessarily with a receiver, though. Normally it's with Mark Andrews. Dak Prescott's moving to his right to deliver the football while dealing with some pressure from this D-end right here. And he gets the football out in front of the wide receiver so that he can outrun this inside linebacker who's trying to stay with him in coverage. And this is one thing that the Ravens do not do. They do not run a whole lot of bootleg concepts. Let me get back. They don't run a whole lot of bootleg concepts with Lamar at all. And schemes like this are a staple of offense. Anyone that's a QB collective guy. So the Rams, the 49ers, any of those QB collective guys, they utilize boot concepts a lot. And I think it kind of creates a better throwing angle on the over route. Also remember Lamar's play against Detroit when he threw the ball back across the field to Sammy Watkins? Not the angle you want to throw at. To me, this is a better angle, even though he's got, pressure in his face. He's able to throw it out there in front of the receiver versus if Lamar was doing this under our offense in the pistol, he'd be throwing this football from somewhere in this area here. And there's a little bit more of a severe angle to try to put touch on the football. And we have incorporated it before. In 2019 and 2020, we utilized some of it, but it was quite lacking in 2020. Do I think we should do the boot every time? No, I don't. Because, we did move to more spread-style concepts last year because of the influence of T. Martin and Keith Williams and probably other guys. And it worked really well up through week 8, I think. But there's ways to make the game easier on your quarterback as opposed to like an option play, action play, or just shotgun plays like we do out of our spread stuff. In my opinion, there's, putting Lamar in some of those boot situations would just help us and help him. All right, on to play number 2. This is a completed pass from Jacoby Brissett to Jalen Waddle down in Miami. I'll run it one time first. The route's very similar to what the Ravens do. And even the direction is, to be real. Jalen Waddle's here. He's lined up really tight to the formation. And that's exactly where Mark Andrews would be, or almost exactly where he would be if he was running the over route that we typically see from him. But there's one small difference in this play that's even different from the Cowboys play that I just showed you. So Waddle is running the over route, and then you've got a clear out route from this side of the field. Very typical with the Ravens. What would normally be occurring would be a run action to this side. And if it was Lamar in the pistol, his feet would be here. He would open that way and then kick back, and then throw the ball at this angle. But they do this a little differently. And does it really impact the play a ton? No, maybe not. But the grain of the run action is with the over route. And ours is usually opposite of the over route. Hopefully that makes sense. Does it matter necessarily in terms of whether our over routes are going to be more successful? No, it's a small difference that maybe we could use sometimes, to be honest with you. You wouldn't be booting here because the running back action is here. So you wouldn't be booting this way. So what you'll see is Jacoby Brissett is able to kick back in the pocket. Now he's got to, escape some pressure. But once he's able to kick back in the pocket, he's able to put his back foot in the ground and drive this football really well on the route. It's a small point and one that might not matter but we always do, the Ravens, we always run that over route, if it's play action, against the grain of the play action. And in some cases, there's no play action, like this play here. This is the Vikings against the Packers. This is a completed pass from Kirk Cousins to Justin Jefferson on an over route, and there's no play action, and there's no mesh meaning there's no mesh between the quarterback and the running back. We don't do that every time either. However, there is a little bit of a difference here in the way we do this. First of all, it's the outside receiver. Now this is a 2x2 formation, so you got 1, 2, 1, 2. It's 11 personnel. What most people, or a lot of people that I know, call twin slot. This is the twins, and then here's the slot, meaning your tight end is in the slot with an X wide receiver outside of him. Takes a little bit longer to develop because Jefferson is the guy running the over route. So he's a little bit wider in terms of his alignment than Andrews or even Waddle on that last play that I showed you, if you recall. And there's also a high-low element here, which is something the Ravens do, but we do not typically run our over concept with an outside receiver. You can see that it took some time to get this done. Kirk Cousins took a shot to deliver this football. Normally, we would be running the over out from right in here, which is kind of a giveaway. And in my opinion, if we run this over out sometimes with Duvernay or Bateman or other guys who have maybe a little bit more speed than Mark Andrews, they can get further across the field from a wider alignment. Additionally, lining up in that tight alignment doesn't give away our intention. From the end zone angle, you will see that Dalvin Cook, the running back, does a great job. Great first effort on the block on a linebacker here. I can't remember that guy's name. Even though he does end up on the ground, that him being Dalvin Cook, he does give Kirk Cousins enough time to get the throw off for a big play. You can see the high-low element. You got the tight end running, an in or an under, and then essentially deep crossers between these two guys. The Ravens do that somewhat as well. Now, I'm going to try to make my point here. I guess talking about this play and the previous play by Jefferson, and express a little bit of disagreement with people on one thing that this play will show, and the last one. And that's that every play has to have yards after catch opportunities. This persistent focus on yak is puzzling. Every route combination does not have to plan for or design yards after catch. If you think that every route that is run and possibly thrown to as an option has to provide yards after catch opportunities, and that's your standard for what's a successful looking play or a well-designed play, I mean, you would be able to say that every offense in the NFL and college is not well designed. Every route does not designed to have yards after catch, and every route doesn't need to. There are complementary routes that are designed to set things up. Now, this one here is going to be a great example of yards after the catch, along with the last one. Cousins was able to hit Jefferson in stride, and he was able to run almost all the way down the right sideline. This is Deshaun Jackson in 2021 film, by the way. He takes this to the house against the Cowboys. There's a couple of things to mention here. Look, first of all, Deshaun Jackson could probably do this 3 or 4 times a year up until age 40. He just got that kind of ability. Let's rewind it, let you look at it real quick. I think that this is something the Ravens could do. And when I say this, what I mean is, right now Darren Waller is lined up as the tight end here. And Foster Moreau is lined up inside of him. This is twin wing. Every team in the NFL who does run 12 personnel, runs twin wing. Twin, these two here. And then wing is 2 tight ends, on one side with the outside tight end being lined up off. What they've done is they put their best, most dangerous guy here. And then run the over from the other side. There's no reason why, again, this is harkening back to what I said about Jefferson's play, whereby we could line up a faster receiver a little further out wide and let that guy run the over concept and let Andrews work inside. This is the same concept here. Now pay attention to these 2 routes that you get here, first of all. Both of them are breaking back across the field. So in some ways, you've got, call this a dig, call this whatever you want to call it. I would just call this another over route, and I'd call this an under route. But in any case, whatever it is. Whoops, sorry. Whatever it is, the point is, you've got your most dangerous guy here, and he's pulling, I believe this is Trayvon Diggs right there, the corner. He's pulling their corner away from this entire side of the field. He's essentially opening up space. Now, I don't know what number 27 is doing. We'll rewind it and let you see him. I'm not going to try to be disrespectful of the guy. But he's lined up on the line of scrimmage and then does nothing in terms of coverage or even trying to go cover something. You see how far he's behind this play or behind this route, and he's got no awareness at all of this deeper over route developing here. I suspect that maybe he blew the coverage and there was going to be some type of man here with these 2 guys. But in any case, we could alter who runs our over route. Same point I made on the Minnesota play a moment ago. And we could use Mark Andrews strategically. Look, the Chiefs with Tyreek Hill. When you played the Chiefs, in some ways it felt like Tyreek Hill was in 2 places at once, because one play they'd line him up in the slot on the right, and the next play they'd line him up as the number 1 receiver to the left, and the third play he'd line up in the slot on the right and then go in motion right to left. It was very difficult to predict where he was, but they knew where he was going to be because they knew the design. Again, here's your 2 routes from the tight ends, a little under or in route, and then an over route by Darren Waller, and they're pulling all the attention. You can see Diggs is going to go here. 27 doesn't really do anything. But in any case, it opens up that whole side of the field, and Derek Carr makes a great throw over top of coverage. Deshaun Jackson takes it to the house. I think the Ravens could use Mark Andrews better and kind of lighten his, lighten his workload, I guess, somewhat. And I'm going to talk about one team specifically that they could do that against, and that would be the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals, on 3rd down against the Ravens last year, would bring in one of their safeties, number 33. He's a good player. I believe his last name's Flowers. Good player, good football player. And he would line up over Andrews, and that was kind of a giveaway. They were playing man. And he did make Andrews work, but Andrews made some plays. My point is, in some of the situations where we know the coverage, let's say 33 is lined up here, and let's say this is Andrews. Well, if we think we know the coverage, we've got to be able to run plays to vacate that entire half of the field and then force someone else to cover the width of the field at a great angle by our receiver and give us the ability to use Mark Andrews' gravity to let someone else make plays. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. All right, same game, Cowboys. Let me know what you guys think of that thought. To be honest with you, I know I kind of belabored that point. All right, you see the Cowboys are on offense. You should think it's either run or play action because they're very sequence based on offense. If you ask me, they run the ball and then they run play action off of it. And here we get an over route by the slot backside, typical and similar to what the Ravens do, right? Also, well, let's let the guy go in motion first. You're going to get one tight end. It's 12 personnel, twin wing, same formation that I was just talking about. This tight end's going to like kind of shoe shine block a little bit. He's not diving at anybody's knees, but he's kind of pass prone a little bit with all the run action going here. Like I said, run action to that side, over route coming back in the other direction. And then you get the quarterback booting off of it. We do this. This is, something the Ravens do. Ricard does this stuff. Charlie Kohler will be good at it. Isaiah Likely. But it's the boot action, if you ask me, that sells this the most. We're in the pistol in this situation, guys. So Lamar's feet are here. He can't hide the football as well as Dak Prescott can on this play. I saw a comment the other day said Lamar's play action fakes suck. Newsflash, he's in the pistol. He can't turn his back and hide the football like Prescott does here. And this concept here is timeless. Like I said before, the Rams, the 49ers, they use the stretch and the stretch boot or the stretch play action. Obviously the Titans do. It's timeless. You have other elements added in, but in any case, look, now the football is out here, but we're talking about this corner right here. He's not capable of seeing that football. I can't draw a straight line either. I'm not capable of drawing a straight line. He's not capable of seeing that football through Dak Prescott's body. He's not disciplined enough on this play. He ends up sucked inside here and gives up an angle to the tight end. Is run and boot going to fix all of our problems? No, of course not. But this series that I'm trying to do with videos is about comparing what the Ravens do to the rest of the NFL. Are we running similar routes? Yes. On this concept, at least, yes. Are our routes similarly spaced out? Yes. On this concept, they are. Do we gain a lot of yards on this concept? Yes, I think we do. But we need more big plays. And the over concept and being strategic about who runs it offers us a chance to do that. And then in the end of it, and no disrespect to Dak Prescott, but if we do this with Lamar Jackson, you don't just have the option of Lamar Jackson throwing the football. You have the option of Lamar Jackson taking off and just being a better athlete than the guy who's out there assigned to contain him as a quarterback. A few more examples here, and then we'll be done. This is the Saints offense against the Packers. Jameis Winston and the Saints are running an intricate little play here. You got to over route. We'll let it run one time. You got to over route on the backside and then an out and up or a wheel by the H-back Taysom Hill. And you got four guys in an area, but this is just a clear out route right here. That's just a clear out route. So we're really talking about these three, right? Great throw by Jameis Winston, into some open space, obviously, that was created by the design. The Ravens do not normally end up with four guys on the same side. It would usually be like two clear out routes. And sometimes we would run like something like that, like some crossers. I do like one aspect of this. But first, let me talk about this right here. We do this route I think I remember Duvernay running it like 3 times last year. Some people call it an out and up. Some people might call this a wheel. It's just whatever you like to call stuff. I'd call it an out and up. But in any case, we ran this against the Bears up in Chicago late in the game. It was like a clutch catch by Duvernay up the right sideline. We had been put in the back on this side. It was Freeman right here where he is. And then Freeman would just run out into the flats. And, we'd run, some route combination here, whatever the hell we ran. And if you remember, Freeman I think he had 8 catches that game. Well, late in the game, we did the same thing. Duvernay runs here, and then Duvernay runs up the sideline. I can't draw it any closer, to the actual sideline that it is there. But the point, which hopefully you get, is it was a clutch catch, and Duvernay ran the route. And Duvernay would run this route a whole lot better than Taysom Hill would. And I think highly of Taysom Hill. He's a hell of an athlete. But Duvernay could take this up the sideline, beat a linebacker, or Duvernay could run that wheel and then sit, bring it back to the sideline if this guy stays on the high side. I like that route. Now, the other thing I like about this, hopefully we get the other thing I like about this is this clear out route here by the number 1. He's running this right at the inside half of this corner. And you got the running back out into the flats. And then you got Taysom Hill running up the sideline. So what they've done is, compared to the way the Ravens would run the clear out routes, the Ravens will run the clear out routes a little bit more like, something like that. What they've done, the Saints, being they, is they've kind of expanded things out more. They've kind of, this guy's going up the sideline, and he's at the bottom of the numbers. And I think it's I think it's quite intentional. They're trying to hit this thing in here. A little different from the way the Ravens would do it. Not necessarily anything for the Ravens that the Ravens need to do differently. Just a slight variation, even though they're running the same concept. Another one, this from the Vikings against the Packers. This one's basic and nearly intercepted, to be honest with you. There's not really anywhere to go with this football that's not well covered. So that's one of the ways to stop it, obviously. Like any pass play, is tight coverage across the board. And we definitely want someone to be able to win these vertical routes. Now, as an aside, this right here is the same concept that Jefferson scored against the Ravens on up in Baltimore, I think, for the first touchdown. If you remember, now it's switched here. This is Thielen, and I think this is Jefferson. It was the other way around on that touchdown. Jefferson was down here, ran the vertical. And if you remember, Humphrey was down here. And I think Clark was the free. And we couldn't communicate about who was going to take this vertical route. And this vertical route here that is quite well covered by the corner. This is the corner. And the safety to the field. They had this thing really well covered. If you remember, Justin Jefferson was wide open for like a 49-yard touchdown. I think on a 3rd and 1. What's my point about this? Again, moving personnel around. Put Andrews over here. Run the over. And then put our fast guy here. Or hopefully have more than one fast guy, right? Not to bring up old stuff. I know people are going to complain about the receivers. But point is, moving the personnel around. Not being so predictable with who is in a certain spot. Forcing the defense to recognize not just the same formation, but the same formation with guys in different places. And is this ball going to be completed, to Adam Thielen? Most of the time, no. And certainly Jefferson looks open, but you've got a curl player who's sitting right there for that ball to be thrown, even though there is obviously a lot of space between Jefferson and the nearest 2 defenders. All right, last 2 plays, sorry. This one's by the Packers, and the Ravens run a similar version of this. It's essentially going to be 2 deep crossers. And you can see that if Aaron Rodgers had time on this, there's a possibility for a big play here. This is Devontae Adams coming across the field. And first of all, you got an underneath linebacker. You got a corner trailing him. And then you've got a safety who's driving on this now. So, a lot of attention paid to Devontae Adams, rightfully so, right? But then from the slot, right here, you got the guy beat. All this field here to work with. So the design of it worked, but the pass pro did not. I want to make a real point about this in a moment. But you can see that the DNs are winning here. And this should look very familiar to Ravens fans because we saw a lot of this shit in 2021. I'm going to make a point here and kind of digress a little bit. Hopefully you've chosen to watch this long. If you checked out my RPO video from last week, I detailed the 2 main RPOs the Ravens do, and one of them was a similar side of the field to this. You had 2 receivers to one side, and Lamar was normally here, that being quarterback, and then the running back was normally to his left, okay? It was to our right on this side of the screen, bottom right. Back would normally cross face, and you get some kind of slant, or maybe a slant replace here, and a hitch. I showed you plays of that against the Chiefs, Colts, and Chargers, right? Basic, same RPO the Ravens run, where Lamar is going to be reading, an inside backer here about whether to give the football or throw it to Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown will be reading the safety about whether to run something like that, which he did against the Detroit Lions, or check up in this vacated area, if the linebacker goes with the running back. Hopefully that all made sense. What's my point, though? Ravens are into pistol. We're not running RPOs. So if Lamar's here and a tailback is behind him, we're not running an RPO. If Lamar's under center, we're definitely not running an RPO. Now, you can run a hitch screen, but you're not going to do it here because you have 3 over 2. So you got 2 here, you got 3 defenders. So they're not going to throw a hitch screen or anything out here when they're a man down. And I did mention this in the RPO video, and I'm going to mention it again. If you take the field and you cut it in, it's not really half. You cut it like that, what do you have down here? The Packers have 2. I can make a number 2. And the Vikings have 3. So what's that mean? The Packers have 9 up here, and the Vikings have 8. Numbers-wise, you should be running the football to this side. Just in terms of sheer numbers. Now, the good teams are going to take their best D end and put him into the boundary sometimes. And maybe they're going to put their best 3 technique D tackle into the boundary too. And so they're going to make life more difficult for you if you do run over there. I understand that. Point being, the Ravens need to be less predictable when they come out in a certain formation, depending on the backfield. So what I'm saying is, and let me get rid of some of this stuff. What I'm saying is you have 3 backfield configurations that the Ravens generally run. Really, we're only talking about the first 2. Pistol and typical shotgun. Now, someone, I forget their name, that looks like 5G, that's an S, shotgun. Someone asked me to look at pistol and shotgun plays and compare them, so I will do that. And then the third one will be, I'm just going to abbreviate, under center, which is what you see here. Each one has its own strengths and weaknesses. But what we've got to do is be less predictable based on the backfield alignment. Because this situation right here is a blitz that they could run if we were quarterback here and a tailback in a typical shotgun. And the Colts actually ran this exact blitz, and so did the Chargers. Exact same blitz. Nickel blitz, walk him down, roll this safety back. Same blitz that I diagrammed by the Colts and Chargers in the RPO video last week. But if we were able to run the stretch up to this side, they wouldn't be motioning, they wouldn't be bringing this guy back to center field because now they're losing a potential second-level player up here into the boundary. Hopefully that makes sense. And hopefully my digression there in terms of, talking about what we could do didn't lose you guys. Point being, the Ravens could be less predictable by running a lot of the same plays from the same backfield alignment, be it pistol, shotgun, under center, whatever. Last play, this is also the Saints offense up in New England. Some of you know I have a ton of respect for Dont'a Hightower and the big plays he's made to change playoff and even Super Bowl games in his career. And one of the ways to stop the over, besides the pass rush that you just saw in the last play, is to have really smart football players who understand what one action means. Now, 2 plays ago, I showed you great coverage. Maybe it was 3 plays ago. The one that Kirk Cousins tried to force the vertical route to Adam Thielen. And then the last one, the DN's got great pressure on Aaron Rodgers. He was unable to find that receiver number 19 streaking across the field. This is going to be great coverage by this corner right here. Great coverage. We'll let you see it. But a really underrated play by Dont'a Hightower, and something that I have to talk about. He's playing this trail technique here. And Jameis Winston has all day to throw the football. And so the corner's in great position. You can see he jumps up, he almost tips the ball. He's actually closer to the football than the receiver. But I have to talk about Dont'a Hightower. This is a position that I coached, and I appreciate stuff like this, and hopefully you do. And if you don't, hopefully I can describe it to you in a way that makes you appreciate it. So this is a Hightower. If you recognize pass immediately, as soon as the ball snapped, maybe you're reading guard or something like that, and you recognize pass, well, if you're playing zone, you go open up at your 45. Meaning you're going to open your hip, your left hip, if you're a Hightower right here, and you're going to have your eyes looking this way at either the number 1 receiver or the number 2. We would always read inside out, so we would read 2 to 1, and see what the route combination is, and then react accordingly, depending on what the coverage is that's called, depending on what route you see. All right, that's a perfect world. I would always say that's the right read. Guys, we're going to practice right read, meaning you made the correct read. Let's get in our pass drop, and now let's read and react to the routes as they are happening in live time. Wrong read or bad read is what happens here. It looks like run action off the jump. You can see Jameis Winston's hiding the football. He's pushing off in this direction, running back going that way, offensive line going this way. All the action, all the eye candy is there for Hightower. All of it. You have the H-back coming across, maybe split zone. So he's got a lot to worry about. And Hightower's going to react to that as well. Bring it back one more time. When you watch it this time, pay attention to what Hightower does and doesn't do. What he doesn't do is immediately open up and get into his 45 because he thinks it's run at first, or he at least has to respect the run. What he does do right now is recognize, oh, this is not run, but I've stepped up a little bit here. I'm still square. I'm in great position like he always is. Now I've got to turn my back. I got to turn my back and run and get back to my spot. Now, and also, maybe the resolution isn't great. His face mask is looking here. Let's do it this way. He's got a visual field probably like this. He's looking for work. He's not looking at the quarterback because he understands concepts. He understands that this concept, if it's not run up here and it's play action to the other side, I'm going to get an over route. Josh Bynes is the same way for the Ravens. And an element to this could be scouting, and I'm going to circle this back to the Ravens in a moment. Hightower might have known there's only 2 or 3 plays out of this formation. That's what great players do. They study film, like Ray Lewis did, and they memorize what you do out of certain formations, and then they react appropriately. I just love this. It's a wrong read. He's not wrong. He didn't do anything wrong. The offense, put a good run concept look up. He has to react to it and respect it. It's not run. Let me turn my back and get out here and try to interrupt this pass concept as it's developing. And again, to bring it back to the Ravens, we've got to be more multiple so that things like this can't happen to us. Because now I'm talking about defense here, which is what I love talking about. We got to be more multiple to where a guy like Hightower or any of the hundreds of smart players there are in the football in the NFL can't see something and say, okay, it's either this play or that. And if we can get less predictable and more multiple, I think the Ravens will sustain the great start that the offense and Lamar had last season. Somebody, I can't remember their name on Twitter, was talking earlier this week about at one point Lamar was projected to have over 4,000 passing yards and 1,000 rushing yards last year. It may have been through 6 or 7 games, something like that. Pretty unbelievable. I think we're going to get there this year, I do, except for the 1,000 yards rushing. Let me know what you guys think of the breakdown, and if you enjoyed it, to be honest with you. I know that I didn't show any Ravens plays, and this is supposed to be a Ravens breakdown. But look, the idea was, I did not think in the last video I illustrated some of the small things the Ravens could do better, from the offensive coordinator on down to the players, that would give us a better chance to keep defenses off guard and not let smart football players like Hightower do what I just showed you, which is just, and they're trained to do that, obviously. It is just, okay, it's not this play, then it's got to be that play. And then be able to put themselves in position to defend the play better. That and a return to a highly effective run game, if you ask me, is a path to winning the AFC North, even if we only have an above-average defense. And I think our defense is going to be way better than that. You guys let me know what you think of the video, what you think of this series so far. I know these videos have gone on a little longer in some cases, but I appreciate you guys checking them out.